The unjustifiable attack by Russia of Ukraine is unacceptable.
This morning, Ukrainians woke up to the brutal, terrifying reality of war. President Putin has launched a horrific, unprovoked attack on their country, a sovereign nation, including missile strikes in their capital, Kiev. He has needlessly put the lives of innocent people at risk, violated Russia's international treaties, and launched the greatest threat to European stability since World War II. Canada is unequivocal in our condemnation of Russia's unprovoked and unjustified attack on the sovereign, democratic state of Ukraine. President Putin's brazen disregard for international law, democracy, and human life are a massive threat to security and peace around the world. I just spoke a few minutes ago with President Zelensky. I told him that we are announcing strong action today and continue to stand with him and with the Ukrainian people. Earlier this morning, I met with G7 partners to coordinate our response. We're also working closely with NATO and our allies. Together, we have made clear that Russian violence, aggression, and violation of international law will not go unpunished. We stand united and steadfast in our support of Ukraine's sovereignty, and we stand in solidarity with the Ukrainian people's right to decide their own future in a free and democratic state. Mardi,
on Tuesday, after President Putin's recognition of the so-called independent states of Donetsk and Luhansk, Canada announced an initial series of concerted sanctions. Canada's sanctions target those responsible for illegal actions in Russia, as well as 2 Russian banks supported by the state. Moreover, we've prohibited Canadians from buying Russian sovereign debt. It will be forbidden to participate in any financial transaction with the so-called independent states of Donetsk and Luhansk. We also announced the deployment of up to 460 additional Canadian Forces troops to support Operation Reassurance under NATO and to favor peace and security in Europe.
Reckless and dangerous military strike, we are imposing further severe sanctions. These sanctions will target 58 individuals and entities, including members of the Russian elite and their family members, as well as the Wagner Group and major Russian banks, among others. We will also sanction members of the Russian Security Council, including the Defense Minister, the Finance Minister, and the Justice Minister. In addition, effective immediately, we are ceasing all export permits for Russia and canceling existing permits. These sanctions are wide-reaching. They will impose severe costs on complicit Russian elites, and they will limit President Putin's ability to continue funding this unjustified invasion. Aujourd'hui,
today, in light of Russia's reckless and dangerous military strike, we are imposing further severe sanctions. These sanctions are wide-reaching. They will bring about major sanctions for members of the Russian elite and will prevent President Putin from financing this unjustified attack. I want to be clear, Russia's attack against Ukraine is also an attack against democracy, international law, and freedom.
Make no mistake, Russia's attack on Ukraine is also an attack on democracy, on international law, on human rights, and on freedom. Russia's actions stand in direct opposition to the democratic principles that generations of Canadians have fought to protect. Democracies and democratic leaders everywhere must come together to defend these principles and stand firmly against authoritarianism. Russia must immediately cease all hostile actions against Ukraine and withdraw all military and proxy forces from the country. Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity must be respected, and the Ukrainian people, like all people, must be free to determine their own future. I want to be clear. Our quarrel is not with the people of Russia. It is with President Putin and Russian leadership that has enabled and supported this further invasion of Ukraine. La vérité,
the truth is that Russia has been violating Ukraine's sovereignty for years. In 2014, it illegally annexed Crimea. Since then, it has never stopped harming democracy in Ukraine. And today, President Putin opened a new dark chapter of this story by launching a wide-ranging invasion.
Deeply disturbing times for the international community and for people everywhere who care about freedom and democracy. And while the eyes of the world are on leaders, we can never lose sight of the human cost of conflict. Innocent people, including children, are now facing violence and chaos. In these dark hours, Canada's message to the people of Ukraine is this: you are not alone. We are standing with you. Canadians and permanent residents in Ukraine, your safety and security are now our top priority. We also want to make sure that you can get to safety. We've arranged for safe passage for you and your families at the land borders with Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova. We are urgently issuing travel documents for affected Canadians, permanent residents, and their immediate family members. We're also prioritizing immigration applications for Ukrainians who want to come to Canada. And to ensure we can serve people as quickly as possible, today we are launching a new dedicated phone line for anyone at home or abroad with urgent Ukraine-related immigration questions. Aux Canadiens et aux résidents permanents
to Canadians and permanent residents in Ukraine, your safety and security are our top priority. We also want to make sure that you can get to safety. We have arranged for safe passage for you and your families at the land borders of Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova. We are urgently issuing travel documents for affected Canadians, permanent residents, and their immediate family members. We are also prioritizing immigration applications for Ukrainians who want to come to Canada. And to ensure that we can serve people as quickly as possible, today we are launching a new dedicated phone line for anyone at home or abroad with urgent Ukraine-related immigration questions.
Last night, I spoke with Ukrainian Canadians at the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress board meeting. I told them that President Putin has underestimated the strength and unity of democratic allies and partners, and he has underestimated the strength and resolve of Ukrainian people. These are traits of Ukrainian Canadians, too. You have helped build this country. You are proud of your country, your culture, and your heritage, and you don't back down. Well, neither will Canada. Our support for Ukraine, for democracy, and for human rights remains unwavering. Merci beaucoup. Je passe maintenant la parole.
Thank you very
à la
much.
vice-première
I'll
ministre
now give the
Chrystia
floor
Freeland.
to Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre.
Thank you, Prime Minister,
bon après-midi.
and good afternoon.
Quand nous nous sommes réveillés ce matin,
When we woke up this
le
morning,
monde était différent.
the world was different.
La Russie a lancé une attaque
Russia
brutale
launched a
et non
brutal
provoquée
and unprovoked
contre
attack
l'Ukraine.
against Ukraine,
Un pays de plus de 40 millions
a
d'habitants
country with a
qui
population
ne
of over
demande
40 million
que
people,
la paix et la liberté.
which only wants peace and
Today,
freedom.
we woke up to a changed world. Russia has launched a brutal and unprovoked attack on Ukraine, a country of more than 40 million people who have sought nothing but peace and freedom. The horrific human costs of this cruel invasion are the direct and personal responsibility of Vladimir Putin, who has chosen to invade a sovereign democracy and challenge the rules-based international order. History will judge President Putin as harshly as the world condemns him today. Today, he cements his place in the ranks of the reviled European dictators who caused such carnage in the 20th century. The response by Canada and our allies will be swift, and it will bite. This barbaric attack cannot and will not be allowed to succeed. To my own Ukrainian Canadian community, let me say this. Now is the time for us to be strong as we support our friends and family in Ukraine. Now is the time for us to remember «Ще не вмерла Україна». И моим друзьям в России я хочу сказать прямо и четко. Наша ссора не с российским народом, а с президентом Путиным и с теми, кто его окружают и поддерживают. С теми, кто сделал кровавый выбор атаковать суверенную демократическую страну. Canada understands what is at stake. We know that the people of Ukraine, in fighting for their lives, for their sovereignty, are fighting for us too. They are fighting for democracy, and we stand with them. Thank you very much. Et je passe maintenant la parole à
I'll now give the floor to my colleague, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mélanie Joly.
Today is a dark day. Last night, Russia launched an unjustified attack on Ukraine. Over the past several months, we have said that Russia was positioning troops and equipment to invade Ukraine. Russia said that it was not, that there was nothing to worry about. Russia lied. We said that Russian military buildups along the border were continuing to grow. Russia said exercises were complete and it was withdrawing troops. This was a complete fabrication. Russia told us their military exercises in Belarus would end on the 20th of February. Today, Russian forces are invading Ukraine from the territory of Belarus. We said that Russia would fabricate a pretext for military intervention in Ukraine. And Russia has tried to do that repeatedly, although in no way convincingly. Russia argued that the Minsk agreements were to be the only roadmap to peace. This week, Vladimir Putin declared the Minsk process dead. For Russia, this was never any question of a diplomatic, for Russia, there was never any question of a diplomatic solution or an honest conversation about security in Europe. That this was always about Russia taking control over Ukraine's sovereignty. Russia is solely responsible for this crisis. They have chosen deception, intimidation, and a manufactured crisis based on lies and false flag operations. Today, the Russian regime is challenging the world order that has kept us safe since the Second World War. Au cours des derniers mois, nous avons dit que la
In the
Russie
past
mettait
few
en place
months, we
des
have
troupes et
said
des
that
équipements pour
Russia
envahir
was
l'Ukraine.
placing
La
troops and
Russie a dit
equipment to
que ce
invade
n'était pas le cas, qu'il
Ukraine.
n'avait pas lieu de
Russia
s'inquiéter.
said that we had
La
nothing to
Russie
worry
a menti.
about. That wasn't the case.
Nous
They
avons dit
lied.
que le
We
renforcement
said
militaire
the military
russe
buildup
le long de la frontière
along
ukrainienne
the
continuait de
Ukrainian
croître.
border
La
continued to
Russie a
grow.
dit qu'elle allait
Russia
retirer ses
said
troupes.
it was going to withdraw
C'est une
its
pure
troops.
invention.
That was pure
La Russie nous a
fiction.
dit que ses exercices
Russia
militaires au
told us that
Bélarus
its
prendraient fin le 20
military
février.
operations
Aujourd'hui,
in Belarus
ils
would
envahissent
end in
l'Ukraine
late
via
February.
le
Today,
Bélarus.
they're invading
La
Ukraine
Russie a
via
affirmé que les accords de
Belarus.
Minsk étaient le
They
seul
said
chemin vers
that
la paix.
the Minsk
Cette
agreements
semaine,
were the only
Vladimir
roadmap
Poutine a
to
explicitement
peace. But
déclaré que le
today,
processus de
President
Minsk
Putin
était mort.
said that the Minsk
La
agreement
Russie
was
a donc
dead.
prouvé au monde
So
entier la
Russia
véritable
has
nature du régime de
proven
Vladimir
the
Poutine.
real nature
Ils sont
of the
les seuls
Putin
responsables de
regime.
cette crise
They are
qu'ils
solely
ont créée par la
responsible for
désinformation,
this
la
crisis that they
manipulation
created through
et la mauvaise foi.
disinformation, manipulation, and bad faith.
Earlier today, I have been in touch with the Office of President Zelensky, with the Deputy Prime Minister, Finance Minister, and the Foreign Minister of Ukraine. I have been in touch with many of my G7 counterparts and the Secretary General of NATO. We're united. Canada stands with Ukraine and its people. Alongside our allies and partners, we will ensure Russia's actions do not go unpunished. You have heard the Prime Minister. We will impose a strong package of new sanctions targeting all major banks, oligarchs, member of the National Council, including Minister of Defense Shoigu, Minister of Finance Sylvanov, and Minister of Justice Truchenko. Canada will also block exports to Russia that require permits. Existing permits will be canceled and all applications will be denied. No aerospace, technology, and mineral goods will be sent to Russia. Canada has one of the strongest package of sanctions being released today. And together with those from our allies, we're inflicting severe pain on the Russian regime and the Russian economy. We call on Russia to stop its attack immediately and to return to the path of dialogue and diplomacy. This madness has to stop. Comme vous l'avez entendu de la part du Premier
As you
ministre,
heard the
nous
Prime
imposons
Minister
des nouvelles
say, we
sanctions
are
visant
imposing
des
new
grandes banques
sanctions
russes,
against
les
large
oligarques
Russian
sont-
banks,
font partie
oligarchs,
de la garde rapprochée du président
who are
Poutine,
part of
les membres
the
du
close
Conseil
inner
national,
circle,
notamment le
President
ministre de la
Putin,
Défense, de
the Minister of
Finances et de la
Defense, Minister of
Justice.
Finance, and the
Le
Minister
Canada
of Justice.
bloquerait également
Canada
toutes
will
les
also
exportations
block
vers la
all
Russie qui
exports to
nécessitent des
Russia
permis.
that
Les
require
permis existants
permits.
seront annulés, toutes les demandes
Existing permits
seront
will be
refusées.
cancelled and all
Aucun
applications
bien
will be
lié au secteur de
refused.
l'aérospatial,
Nothing
de la
regarding
technologie
aerospace
ou encore des
technology
minéraux ne pourront être exportés vers la
or
Russie.
minerals can be exported to
Le
Russia.
Canada a mis en place
Canada
l'un des
has
ensembles
put
de
in
sanctions les plus
place
vigoureux
one of the most
et avec
vigorous
ceux de
series
nos
of
alliés, le
sanctions
but est
possible,
d'affaiblir et
and our
d'ébranler
goal
le régime
is
russe et
to
son économie.
weaken the Russian regime and its economy.
I also spoke again this morning to Canada's ambassador to Ukraine. Our staff are now safely in Poland. As soon as we're able to ensure adequate delivery of services, they will return to Ukraine. Consular services remain available to Canadians in Ukraine. Information on how to reach Global Affairs can be found on our website and on my social media channels. Should there be a surge in demand for consular assistance, we are ready. Our teams in Ottawa, Warsaw, and major European cities are on standby to support. The safety and security of all Canadians is our highest priority. Canadians in Ukraine should shelter in place unless they are able to leave the country safely. I'd like to finish by expressing that I know that the pain we're inflicting on Russia does not compare to that being felt by the Ukrainian people today. You can be assured that Canada and the world is with you. J'aimerais conclure en disant que je comprends que les sanctions que nous imposons à la Russie ne sont pas comparables à la douleur que ressent le peuple ukrainien
are not
aujourd'hui.
comparable to what is felt by Ukrainians today. Rest assured that Canada and the rest of the world is with you today. Thank you.
I will now pass the floor to my colleague Anita Anand.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Hello, everyone.
Today is a devastating day for the Ukrainian people, for democratic societies, and for all those who stand for peace and security. Indeed, some in the West have taken peace and security for granted before today. Some may have believed that what is happening right now in Ukraine, in Europe, could not, would not take place. But it is. Putin has chosen to deliberately invade Ukraine. a sovereign, democratic nation that did nothing to warrant this aggression. I am sure many of us could not even imagine what it must have felt like being woken up by explosions.
Today is a devastating day for the Ukrainian people, for democratic societies, and for all those who stand for peace and security. Putin has chosen to deliberately invade Ukraine, a sovereign democratic nation who did nothing to warrant this aggression.
When I visited Ukraine last month, I met with countless hardworking and good people, and I am heartbroken now to know that those same people are fighting for their futures, for their very right to exist as a sovereign people. And to my Ukrainian counterpart, my friend, Minister Resnikov, whom I saw only a few days ago and with whom I am in daily touch, and to all Canadians I say, I am with you, we are with you, Canada is with you. I offer my condolences to the families of the Ukrainians who have been brutally killed, and I wish a speedy recovery to the injured. My thoughts are also with the 1.3 million Ukrainian Canadians watching these unfolding events in horror. Let's be clear. Putin is responsible for these needless deaths, for violating the UN Charter, and for violating the international rules-based order at the same time. And comme Melanie a déjà dit,
as Melanie already
in the
stated,
last few weeks, Putin has tried to convince the world that the path that he has chosen is reasonable and legitimate, mais ce n'est pas le cas, pas du tout.
That is not the case,
Putin's
not at
actions
all.
Are not only illegal, they're unconscionable. He has flagrantly disregarded the fundamental rights of Ukrainians to peace, freedom, and self-determination. Since 2014, in fact, Russia has set the stage for this unprovoked invasion, indeed further invasion of Ukraine, for this unwarranted attack on a sovereign people, for this deliberate undermining of the rules-based international order. And there are no arguments that Putin can put forward that could legitimize the choices that he has made. We will not stand for this attack on the rules-based international order. Notre détermination à faire respecter cet ordre international fondé sur les règles
based on
et
rules
à soutenir la sécurité de l'Ukraine, de l'Europe et du monde
Ukraine, of Europe, and the world
inébranlable. Our
will
resolve
never be.
is unwavering. Since the very beginning, when Crimea was invaded in 2014, Canada has been there with Ukraine and all those under threat from Russia's actions. I want to outline 5 points. First, we've been there with strong and coordinated economic sanctions, which will continue to weaken Russia. Second, by putting in place then expanding Operation Unifier. Under this mission, our Canadian Armed Forces have trained more than 35,000 of their Ukrainian counterparts to help them defend themselves against an eventuality like this one. We have watched Ukraine's soldiers become a more disciplined, more agile, and more effective fighting force. And as soon as conditions allow, we will continue to provide training and capacity building to the Ukrainian military under Operation Unifier. We have also been providing support from a cyber perspective and will continue to do so. Third, by providing significant financial contributions to strengthen Ukraine's institutions and economy, approximately $700 million in total. Fourth, by providing nearly $10 million worth of lethal and non-lethal equipment, which has arrived in full and in time to be effective and useful. Fifth, and finally, by announcing this week the expansion of Operation Reassurance to bolster NATO's eastern flank and to make it clear to Putin that we stand with our allies and our partners in the face of Russian aggression and destabilization efforts. We have also placed 3,400 military personnel across all branches of the service on standby to deploy to the NATO response force should they be required. We have constantly demonstrated, in short, our support for our allies and our partners in the face of authoritarianism and such aggression. I want to personally thank our Canadian Armed Forces for the critical work that they have done to prepare our Ukrainian friends for this fight. In the coming days, months, and years, your country will continue to ask more of you, given the increasingly dangerous world, just made significantly more dangerous. Your service is more important than ever, and I will do everything in my power to ensure that you are resourced to fight and win. And I can confirm that Canadian Armed Forces are ready to assist with the whole of government efforts in the region. Finally, I will remain in close contact with our NATO allies, our Ukrainian partners, and with Minister Resnikov. We cannot allow Putin to redraw maps and to rewrite history to suit his own purposes. We must and we will stand up against these efforts to sow discord, deceit, and violence. Nous ne pouvons pas permettre à Putin de
allow Putin to redraw maps and rewrite history to suit his own purposes. At this pivotal time for Ukraine, for Europe, and for the world, Canada and our NATO allies are more united, more resolved, and stronger than ever before. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Anand. We will be taking 20 minutes of questions, starting with the room. One question, one follow-up, then we'll go to the phone.